So, Dave, welcome back to the SKUcast. When did you start the Water for Good campaign?
Good morning, Bobby. So the PromoCares board, the last couple of years we've done some sort of campaign. 2 years ago it was mental health. Last year it was raising money for the Ukraine, and this year it was decided to do something to partner with Water for Good with Planet Water. And the campaign was live roughly from April, May through the end of June, July. Of course, the money's still coming in, but that was the original official time frame.
Yeah, what were your initial hopes? What did you think? We hope to raise X amount.
It's we so it's about $20,000 to $25,000 to do an install of one of these aqua towers that Planet
Okay,
Water
so that's
puts
the
in.
cost, the base cost.
Yep. And our goal was to raise $50,000 and to fund two of these things in underserved areas in Mexico. And by the time the campaign closed at the end of June, we were at about $100,000. And
Wow.
then about a month and a half later, we were at $150,000. And 2 days ago, CJ called and said, "Yeah, we sold a bunch more drinkware. We're going to throw in another $25,000."
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
today, the campaign sits at $175,000.
Wow, that's amazing. CJ at Hit Promo, by the way, just to clarify who that is.
Yeah.
What did this campaign look like? These were donations from distributors, suppliers, service providers. You had a T-shirt sale with the "Water is a Human Right" on the front.
We did. Wearing it right now.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, so the original idea was to kind of tie it into our supplier partners out there, particularly the ones that are involved in the drinkware category, and just
Yeah.
say,
Oh, okay.
why don't you pick a couple of drinkware pieces and commit, a couple of percent of sales of those drinkware pieces during the campaign to this campaign. And so that's what most of the suppliers did. They picked one or two drinkware pieces, they committed to say 2% of sales.
Love it.
Hit was a little bit different. They said, we're just going to do all drinkware sales. So they committed to every drinkware piece sold 2% during that
Oh,
campaign.
that's fantastic.
And then how SNS got involved was because they have one of their facilities in Mexico, their Toltex plant. Um, they were interested in building some water towers in that area where their employees at the Toltex plant live.
Right.
So they got involved, even though they don't sell drinkware. They got involved because of the location of their facility in Mexico.
And did I read right that that's going to be in the plans for 2024?
It is, yeah. So we raised so much money that we have enough funding now to build 6 or 7 of these towers instead of the two we had planned on.
Wow.
So the donation from SNS and Toltex, they really wanted to put towers in the area affected by their employees.
Yep.
So there's going to be a cluster of 3 towers that are built near the Toltex plant in
Wow.
Mexico.
Well, more than just raising funds, PromoCare supporters, board members, and other folks actually traveled to Mexico, including yourself, to actually build the tower. So,
We did,
Dave, what was that
yeah.
like? What was that like when you first landed and got there? You landed in Mexico City, and traveled where?
Yeah, it was great, and it was kind of a last minute thing. Like the sites came up, and there's 9 of us on the PromoCares board, and
Right.
one by one, everybody's like, "Well, my kids are coming home next week. I can't." So in the very end, as the empty nester of the bunch, with no kids or dogs at home at the moment, I was like, "Sure, I'll get on a plane tomorrow and fly to Mexico and help build this thing." So Scott Pearson with 6 a.m. sourcing, he got his kids involved. So 2 of his kids, Chase and Paris, joined us, and the 4 of us flew into Mexico City, met some of his business partners who live there um, to
Awesome.
to help with this. And then
Yeah.
the initial site was in a small town called Rincón de Lijadero, I believe you pronounce it.
Wow,
It's
that was
out in
good,
the
Dave. Yeah.
San Jose de Rincón, which is basically the very western edge of the state of Mexico. So it was about a 3.5 hour drive on some pretty sketchy roads there for a while
Right.
to this small school in this local community out there is where the first one went in.
Wow. Well, when you got there, what was the community like? Can you paint us a picture?
Yeah, it's super fascinating because it's a local indigenous community. So it's the Mazahua people, and they've been around since before the Aztecs, and ultimately were
Wow.
subjugated by the Aztecs and later the Spanish conquest of Mexico. But they've retained a lot of the original traditions and the dress. The women were dressed in these beautiful pleated satin looking outfits, and all the
Mm.
boys, the little kids in the school, had these very intricate hand-stitched shirts they were wearing. So those are some of the traditions from that culture that continued out in that part of the country. And it was just, we rolled into this school not knowing what to expect,
Yeah.
and all of the moms of the kids had come out to make breakfast for us, and they had all these pastries, and they made us this hot, it's called atole. It's like a breakfast drink that they make with maize and some
Mm,
sweeteners and cinnamon and vanilla and such. It's kind of like almost like a thick hot chocolate that they
wow.
drink to kind of keep them warm, because we were up at close to 10,000 feet above sea level. So
Wow.
yeah, they came out and made us breakfast, and then we started building the tower from there. And
I'd actually read that that community is one of the poorest municipalities in the state of Mexico, as I mentioned in the intro. So you started building the towers. What was that like? Experience of actually building the tower?
it's, as a kid that grew up playing with Legos and erector sets, it's, I love it. I love to get my hands dirty, and it's like, sure, I'm going to get some wrenches and we're going to put this thing together. And the parts for these towers, I'm trying to remember exactly where they're actually manufactured in Vietnam, I believe, and they ship them here. And the entire tower itself, minus the reservoir, the water reservoir that goes on top, basically is packed down into two crates that fit on a pallet. And
Mm,
so they ship these all around the world. I think they're building about 300 of these a year around the world at the moment. Planet Water is. And so, it's very, very well organized. There's about
yeah.
5 folks from Planet Water there that were explaining what to do, how to put it together. And as a team, we all kind of came together and took certain parts of this tower on. And ultimately took all of us to raise this thing up into the air and put it on a pallet and bolt it into the ground.
What's phenomenal about that is the hands-on, like someone from the PromoCares community, several people going to actually hands-on and do this. What were you sort of expecting going in, and then what was the reality of it like?
I think with any philanthropic initiative, the ability to see what it is that you're supporting
Yeah,
is super important. As in another life, I sit on the Big Slick board in Kansas City, which is a
yeah,
fundraiser for Children's Mercy. And one of the things that's very unique about that is we take our celebrity guests to the hospital to play games with the
yeah,
kids that are going through chemotherapy and such. And it makes it so much more impactful. So for us to be able to walk into this community and help build this tower, and at the end of the day see these kids drinking clean water and having fun and toasting each other, and it's just a
yeah.
really neat way to see what impact you're making.
Yeah, speaking of, what impacted you the most? Like, what left the most indelible impression on you as you now have come back and settled and back to your routine, but it still remains with you?
Yeah, I think seeing them all come out to see, because they historically, the water that they have there is coming straight out of a well, out of the ground. It's
Mm,
not cleaned in any way. And seeing the kids when we got there, they do have toilets there, but they're manually filling these toilets with buckets of water to flush them.
wow.
They're drinking water out of the ground. And so for them to be a big aspect of this was education, right? So
Mm,
teaching them about the proper ways to wash your hands and when you should wash your hands. And so the tower itself is twofold. It's one, to encourage them to wash their hands, before and after eating and after activities and things like that, but also for drinking water. So just to see the whole community come out and be excited about it, and knowing that that tower is going to be there for at least 5 years, but probably 10 or more,
yeah.
providing clean water was really cool.
What a phenomenal impact this industry can make when they do things like this and put their creative imagination to work. And from, as you mentioned, from the press release about the generous support of SNS Active Wear and Tooltex, there's this new cluster and a 3-year endeavor to construct aqua towers in that area. It's amazing to know that some of the merchandise we're selling has just a direct impact, and you can actually close the loop on that.
It is. Yeah, it's really been fun to see. When we started the PromoCares board 6, 7 years ago, it was just simply to kind of shout out the names of folks that were doing these kinds of things. And now
Yeah,
you're seeing, both ASI and PPA have gotten on board.
it's
Their
amazing.
search engines now have filters for this kind of things, and all of these. And it, not just HIT and SNS, but we had Alpha Broder, Raining Rose, Gordon Sinclair, Hirsch, Snugs, Fairwear, Promo Hunt, NC Custom. Tony over at Promo Hunt did all the t-shirts and sold those through his website. So a lot of companies rallied around this and got involved.
There's a couple of ways we can support, to wrap this up, Dave. There's a couple of ways we can support the next initiative, this initiative that's happening still now. One of the ways you talked about is the search, looking for merchandise that is. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah. So in both the ESP search product and the Sage search product now, there are filters where you can filter by companies that they offer environmentally conscious products, sustainable products, responsible sourcing, companies that have DEI initiatives, all
Mm,
those kinds of things. Now you can look for suppliers that are actually involved in those kinds of initiatives. And then, of course, you can always go to promocares.org. We have a directory on there that kind of highlights all the suppliers in the industry that are doing these kinds of things.
yeah.
In this particular campaign, you can still go to promocares.org, and there's a tab for all we call them our for good events. So you'll
Yep.
see all of our last 3 for good events. There's still a link there where you can go order one of these t-shirts that says water is a human right on the front. And that money will go toward this campaign. And we haven't figured out what next year's campaign is. We didn't expect this one to last all year and gross so much money and involve the building of so many towers. So give us a
Phenomenal.
little bit to figure out what next year's campaign
Yeah.
is going to be.
Well, we'll link to all this in the show notes. Again, that's promocares.org. There's also planetwater.org, planet-water.org is their organization, but we'll add all this in the show notes. I just want to say on behalf of the community, thanks to the many suppliers and PromoCares board and everyone that supported this initiative. What an amazing, encouraging initiative. And we look forward to more.
Thanks, Bobby.